Welcome back to Dragon's Den Classics. I'm Ana, and with my dad Russ, we're giving you the 2-minute summary of our last episode, which included chapters 19 and 20 of The Seven Dials Mystery by Agatha Christie.
Last time, on The Seven Dials Mystery, Bundle Brent decided she wasn't going to play the meek girl while the men had all the fun.
Exactly. Chapter 19 finds Bundle rejecting the tame role assigned to her by Jimmy Thesiger and Bill Eversley. While they're guarding the inside of Wyvern Abbey, Bundle decides to take on the outside. She trades her evening dress for riding breeches and rubber-soled shoes, then scales down the ivy outside her window like a cat.
But she doesn't get far before she runs into Superintendent Battle. He's standing there like a solid English wall, telling her to go back to bed. Bundle obeys, or at least she pretends to.
Bundle is far too restless for sleep. She sneaks into the hallway and finds Jimmy's guard post empty. Then things get even weirder. She accidentally bursts into the Countess Radzky's room, only to find the bed unslept in and the Countess gone.
That's when the silence of the night shattered. A violent struggle breaks out in the library, crashing furniture, scuffling, and then 2 distinct gunshots.
Meanwhile, in Chapter 20, we learn Lorraine Wade wasn't sleeping either. Armed with a tiny ivory-handled pistol, she sneaks onto the grounds just in time to see a man climbing down the ivy. He drops a brown paper packet right at her feet.
Lorraine grabs the packet and bolts straight into the arms of Superintendent Battle. They rush to the library window and find Jimmy Thesiger collapsed in a pool of blood, shot in the arm and knocked unconscious.
The whole house wakes up. George Lomax is spluttering, Lady Coote is mothering the poor boy, and Bill Eversley is in total shock. When Jimmy finally comes to, he explains he fought a man who climbed down the ivy, a man who shot him and escaped.
But the real kicker comes from Sir Stanley Digby. He rushes to check on the secret invention papers, only to find the guard, Terence O'Rourke, drugged in a deep sleep. The secret formulas are gone. The Seven Dials has struck again.
If you are enjoying our content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you will know when we drop a new episode. Now join us for chapters 21 and 22 of Agatha Christie's The Seven Dials Mystery, where we'll find out what happens next on that fateful night. Chapter 21, The Recovery of the Formula.
Der lieb Gott, said Herr Eberhard in a whisper.
His face had gone chalky white. George turned a face of dignified reproach on Battle.
Is this true, Battle? I left all my arrangements in your hands.
The rock-like quality of the superintendent showed out well. Not a muscle of his face moved.
The best of us are defeated sometimes, sir, he said quietly. Then you really mean that the document is gone?
But to everyone's intense surprise, Superintendent Battle shook his head.
No, Mr. Lomax. It's not so bad as you think. Everything's all right. But you can't lay the credit for it at my door. You've got to thank this young lady.
He indicated Lorraine, who stared at him in surprise. Battle stepped across to her and gently took the brown paper parcel, which she was still clutching mechanically.
I think, Mr. Lomax, he said, that you'll find what you want here.
Sir Stanley Digby, quicker in action than George, snatched at the package and tore it open, investigating its contents eagerly. A sigh of relief escaped him, and he mopped his brow. Herr Eberhard fell upon the child of his brain and clasped it to his heart, whilst a torrent of German burst from him. Sir Stanley turned to Lorraine, shaking her warmly by the hand.
"My dear young lady," he said, "we're infinitely obliged to you, I'm sure." "Yes, indeed," said George. "Though,
He paused in some perplexity, staring at a young lady who was a total stranger to him. Lorraine looked appealingly at Jimmy, who came to the rescue.
This is Miss Wade," said Jimmy. "Gerald Wade's sister." "Indeed," said George, shaking her warmly by the hand. "My dear Miss Wade, I must express my deep gratitude to you for what you've done. I must confess that I don't quite see—"
He paused delicately, and 4 of the persons present felt that explanations were going to be fraught with much difficulty. Superintendent Battle came to the rescue.
"Perhaps we'd better not go into that just right now, sir," he said tactfully.
The efficient Mr. Bateman created a further diversion.
"Wouldn't it be wise for someone to see Mr. O'Rourke? Don't you think, sir, that a doctor had better be sent for?" "Of course," said George, "of course. Most remiss of us not to have thought of it before." He looked towards Bill. "Get Dr. Cartwright on the telephone. Ask him to come. Just hint, if you can, that discretion should be observed."
Bill went off on his errand.
"I'll come with you, Digby," said George. "Something possibly could be done. Measures should, perhaps, be taken whilst awaiting the arrival of the doctor."
He looked rather helplessly at Rupert Bateman. Efficiency always makes itself felt. It was Pongo who was really in charge of the situation.
"Shall I come up with you, sir?"
George accepted the offer with relief. Here, he felt, was someone on whom he could lean. He experienced that sense of complete trust in Mr. Bateman's efficiency, which came to all those who encountered that excellent young man. The 3 men left the room together, Lady Coote murmuring in deep, rich tones, "The poor young fellow, perhaps I could do something," hurried after them.
"That's a very motherly woman," observed the superintendent thoughtfully. "A very motherly woman, indeed. I wonder—"
3 pairs of eyes looked at him inquiringly.
"I was wondering," said Superintendent Battle slowly, "where Sir Oswald Coote may be."
"Oh," gasped Lorraine. "Do you think he's been murdered?"
Battle shook his head at her reproachfully. "No need for anything so melodramatic," he said. "No, I rather think—"
He paused, his head on one side, listening, one large hand raised to enjoin silence. In another minute, they all heard what his sharper ears had been the first to notice: footsteps coming along the terrace outside. They rang out clearly, with no kind of subterfuge about them. In another minute, the window was blocked by a bulky figure, which stood there regarding them and who conveyed, in an odd way, a sense of dominating the situation. Sir Oswald, for it was he, looked slowly from one face to another. His keen eyes took in the details of the situation. Jimmy, with his roughly bandaged arm, Bundle, in her somewhat anomalous attire, Lorraine, a perfect stranger to him. His eyes came last to Superintendent Battle. He spoke sharply and crisply.
"What's been happening here, officer?" "Attempted robbery, sir." "Attempted, eh?" "Thanks to this young lady, Miss Wade, the thieves failed to get away with it." "Ah," he said again, his scrutiny ended. "And now, officer, what about this?"
He held out a small Mauser pistol, which he carried delicately by the butt.
"Where did you come to find that, Sir Oswald?" "On the lawn outside. I presume it must have been thrown down by one of the thieves as he took to his heels. I've had it carefully handled, as I thought you might wish to examine it for fingerprints." "You think of everything, Sir Oswald," said Battle.
He took the pistol from the other, handling it with equal care, and laid it down on the table beside Jimmy's Colt.
"And now, if you please," said Sir Oswald, "I should like to hear exactly what has occurred."
Superintendent Battle gave a brief resume of the events of the night. Sir Oswald frowned thoughtfully.
"I understand," he said sharply. "After wounding and disabling Mr. Thesiger, the man took to his heels and ran, throwing away the pistol as he did so. What I cannot understand is why no one pursued him." "It wasn't till we heard Mr. Thesiger's story that we knew that there was anyone to pursue," remarked Superintendent Battle dryly. "You didn't, catch sight of him making off as you rounded the corner of the terrace?" "No, I missed him by about 40 seconds, I should say. There's no moon, and he'd be invisible as soon as he'd left the terrace. He must have leapt for it as soon as he'd fired the shot." Said Sir Oswald. "I still think that a search should be organized. Someone else should have been posted." "There are 3 of my men in the grounds," said the superintendent quietly. "Oh," Sir Oswald seemed rather taken aback. "They were to hold and detain anyone attempting to leave the grounds. And yet, they haven't done so." "And yet, they haven't done so," agreed Battle gravely.
Sir Oswald looked at him as though something in the words puzzled him. He said sharply,
"Are you telling me all that you know, Superintendent Battle?" "All that I know, yes, Sir Oswald. What I think is a different matter. Maybe I think some rather curious things. But until thinking's got you somewhere, it's no use talking about it." "And yet," said Sir Oswald slowly, "I should like to know what you think, Superintendent Battle." "For one thing, sir, I think there's a lot too much ivy about this place. Excuse me, sir, you've got a bit on your coat. Yes, a great deal too much ivy. It complicates things."
Sir Oswald stared at him, but any reply he might have contemplated making was arrested by the entrance of Rupert Bateman.
"Oh, there you are, Sir Oswald. I'm so glad. Lady Coote has just discovered that you were missing, and she has been insisting upon it that you had been murdered by the thieves. I really think, Sir Oswald, that you had better come to her at once. She is terribly upset." "Maria is an incredibly foolish woman," said Sir Oswald. "Why should I be murdered? I'll come with you, Bateman."
He left the room with his secretary.
"That's a very efficient young man," said Battle, looking after him. "What's his name? Bateman?" Jimmy nodded. "Bateman Rupert," he said, "commonly known as Pongo. I was at school with him." "Were you? Now that's interesting, Mr. Thesiger. What was your opinion of him in those days?" "Oh, he was always the same sort of ass." "I shouldn't have thought," said Battle mildly, "that he was an ass." "Oh, you know what I mean. Of course he wasn't really an ass. Tons of brains and always swatting at things, but deadly serious. No sense of humor." "Ah," said Superintendent Battle. "That's a pity. Gentlemen who have no sense of humor get to taking themselves too seriously, and that leads to mischief." "I can't imagine Pongo getting into mischief," said Jimmy. "He's done extremely well for himself so far. Dug himself in with old Coot and looks like being a permanency in that job.
Superintendent Battle, said Bundle.
Yes, Lady Eileen?
Don't you think it very odd that Sir Oswald didn't say what he was doing wandering about in the garden in the middle of the night?
Ah, said Battle. Sir Oswald's a great man, and a great man always knows better than to explain unless an explanation is demanded. To rush into explanations and excuses is always a sign of weakness. Sir Oswald knows that as well as I do. He's not going to come in explaining and apologizing. Not he. He just stalks in and hauls me over the coals. He's a big man, Sir Oswald.
Such a warm admiration sounded in the superintendent's tones that Bundle pursued the subject no further.
And now, said Superintendent Battle, looking around with a slight twinkle in his eye, now that we're together and friendly-like, I should like to hear just how Miss Wade happened to arrive on the scene so pat. She ought to be ashamed of herself, said Jimmy, hoodwinking all of us like she did.
Why should I be kept out of it all? Cried Lorraine passionately. I never meant to be. No, not the very first day in your rooms when you both explained how the best thing for me to do was to stay quietly at home and keep out of danger. I didn't say anything, but I made up my mind then. I half suspected it, said Bundle. You were so surprisingly meek about it. I might have known you were up to something.
I thought you were remarkably sensible, said Jimmy Thesiger.
You would, Jimmy dear, said Lorraine. It was easy enough to deceive you.
Thank you for those kind words, said Jimmy. Go on, don't mind me.
When you rang up and said there might be danger, I was more determined than ever, went on Lorraine. I went to Harrod's and I bought a pistol. Here it is.
She produced the dainty weapon, and Superintendent Battle took it from her and examined it. Quite a deadly little toy, Miss Wade, he said. Have you had much practice with it?
None at all, said Lorraine. But I thought if I took it with me, well, that it would give me a little comforting feeling.
Quite so, said Battle gravely.
My idea was to come over here and see what was going on. I left the car in the road and climbed through the hedge and came up to the terrace. I was just looking about me when, plop, something fell right at my feet. I picked it up and then looked to see where it could have come from, and then I saw the man climbing down the ivy, and I ran.
Just so, said Battle. Now, Miss Wade, can you describe that man at all?
The girl shook her head. It was too dark to see much. I think he was a big man, but that's about all.
And now, you, Mr. Thesiger. Battle turned to him. You struggled with the man. Can you tell me anything about him? He was a pretty hefty individual. That's all I can say. He gave a few hoarse whispers. That's when I had him by the throat. He said, "Let me go, governor." Something like that. An educated man, then. Yes, I suppose he was. He spoke like one.
I still don't quite understand about the packet, said Lorraine. Why should he throw it down as he did? Was it because it hampered him climbing?
No, said Battle. I've got an entirely different theory about that. That packet, Miss Wade, was deliberately thrown down to you, or so I believe.
To me?
Shall we say, to the person the thief thought you were? This is getting very involved, said Jimmy. Mr. Thesiger, when you came into this room, did you switch on the light at all? Yes. And there was no one else in the room? No one at all. But previously you thought you heard someone moving about down here? Yes. And then, after trying the window, you switched off the light again and locked the door. Jimmy nodded.
Superintendent Battle looked slowly round him. His glance was arrested by a big screen of Spanish leather, which stood near one of the bookcases. Brusquely, he strode across the room and looked behind it. He uttered a sharp ejaculation, which brought the three young people quickly to his side. Huddled on the floor, in a dead faint, lay the Countess Radzky. Chapter 22, The Countess Radzky's Story.
The Countess's return to consciousness was very different from that of Jimmy Thesiger. It was more prolonged and infinitely more artistic.
Artistic was Bundle's word. She had been zealous in her ministrations, largely consisting of the application of cold water, and the Countess had instantly responded, passing a white, bewildered hand across her brow and murmuring faintly. It was at this point that Bill, at last relieved from his duties with telephone and doctors, had come bustling into the room and had instantly proceeded to make, in Bundle's opinion, a most regrettable idiot of himself. He had hung over the Countess with a concerned and anxious face and had addressed a series of singularly idiotic remarks to her.
I say, Countess, it's all right. It's really all right. Don't try to talk. It's bad for you. Just lie still. You'll be all right in a minute. It'll all come back to you. Don't say anything until you're quite all right. Take your time. Just lie still and close your eyes. You'll remember everything in a minute. Have another sip of water. Have some brandy. That's the stuff. Don't you think, Bundle? That's some brandy.
For God's sake, Bill, leave her alone, said Bundle crossly. She'll be all right. And with an expert hand, she flipped a good deal of cold water onto the exquisite makeup of the Countess's face. The Countess flinched and sat up. She looked considerably more wide awake. Ah, she murmured. I am here. Yes, I am here.
Take your time, said Bill. Don't talk till you feel quite all right again.
The Countess drew the folds of a very transparent negligee closer around her. It is coming back to me, she murmured. Yes, it is coming back. She looked at the little crowd grouped around her. Perhaps something in the attentive faces struck her as unsympathetic. In any case, she smiled deliberately up at the one face which clearly displayed a very opposite emotion. Ah, my big Englishman, she said very softly. Do not distress yourself. All is well with me.
Oh, I say, but are you sure? Demanded Bill anxiously.
Quite sure. She smiled at him reassuringly. We Hungarians, we have nerves of steel.
A look of intense relief passed over Bill's face. A fatuous look settled down there instead. A look which made Bundle earnestly long to kick him.
Have some water, she said coldly. The Countess refused water. Jimmy, kindlier to beauty in distress, suggested a cocktail. The Countess reacted favorably to this suggestion. When she had swallowed it, she looked round once more, this time with a livelier eye. Tell me, what has happened? She demanded briskly.
We were hoping you might be able to tell us that, said Superintendent Battle.
The Countess looked at him sharply. She seemed to become aware of the big, quiet man for the first time. I went to your room, said Bundle. The bed hadn't been slept in, and you weren't there. She paused, looking accusingly at the Countess. The latter closed her eyes and nodded her head slowly. Yes, yes, I remember it all now. Oh, it was horrible. She shuddered. Do you want me to tell you?
Superintendent Battle said, If you please, at the same moment that Bill said, Not if you don't feel up to it.
The Countess looked from one to the other, but the quiet, masterful eye of Superintendent Battle won the game. I could not sleep, began the Countess. The house, it oppressed me. I was all as you say, on wires, the cat on the hot bricks. I knew that in the state I was in, it was useless to think of going to bed. I walked about my room, I read, but the books placed there did not interest me greatly. I thought I would come down here and find something more absorbing.
Very natural, said Bill. Very often done, I believe, said Battle.
So, as soon as the idea occurred to me, I left my room and came down. The house was very still.
Excuse me, interrupted the superintendent, but can you give me an idea of what time it was when this occurred?
I never know the time, said the Countess superbly, and swept on with her story. The house was very quiet. One could even hear the little mouse run, if there had been one. I come down the stairs very quietly.
Very quietly?
Naturally, I do not want to disturb the household, said the Countess reproachfully. I come in here, I go into this corner, and I search the shelves for a suitable book.
Having, of course, switched on the light?
No, I did not switch on the light. I had, you see, my little electric torch with me. With that, I scanned the shelves.
Ah, said the superintendent.
Suddenly, continued the Countess dramatically, I hear something, a stealthy sound, a muffled footstep. I switch out my torch and listen. The footsteps draw nearer, stealthy, horrible footsteps. I shrink behind the screen. In another minute, the door opens and the light is switched on. The man, the burglar, is in the room.
Yes, but I say, began Mr. Thesiger. A large-sized foot pressed his, and realizing that Superintendent Battle was giving him a hint, Jimmy shut up.
I nearly died of fear, continued the Countess. I tried not to breathe. The man waited for a minute, listening, then, still with that horrible stealthy tread.
Again Jimmy opened his mouth to protest, and again shut it.
He crossed to the window and peered out. He remained there for a minute or two, then he recrossed the room and turned out the lights again, locking the door. I am terrified. He is in the room, moving stealthily about in the dark. Ah, it is horrible. Suppose he should come upon me in the dark. In another minute, I hear him again by the window. Then silence. I hope that perhaps he may have gone out that way. As the minutes pass and I hear no further sound, I am almost sure that he has done so. Indeed, I am in the very act of switching on my torch and investigating when, prestissimo, it all begins.
Yes?
Ah, but it was terrible. Never, never shall I forget it. Two men trying to murder each other. Oh, it was horrible. They reeled about the room, and furniture crashed in every direction. I thought, too, that I heard a woman scream, but that was not in the room. It was outside somewhere. The criminal had a hoarse voice. He croaked rather than spoke. He kept saying, "Let me go, let me go." The other man was a gentleman. He had a cultured English voice.
Jimmy looked gratified.
He swore mostly, continued the Countess.
Clearly a gentleman, said Superintendent Battle.
And then, continued the Countess, a flash and a shot. The bullet hit the bookcase beside me. I suppose I must have fainted.
She looked up at Bill. He took her hand and patted it. You poor dear, he said. How rotten for you.
Silly idiot, thought Bundle.
Superintendent Battle had moved on swift, noiseless feet over to the bookcase, a little to the right of the screen. He bent down, searching. Presently he stopped and picked something up. It wasn't a bullet, Countess, he said. It's the shell of the cartridge. Where were you standing when you fired, Mr. Thesiger? Jimmy took up a position by the window. As nearly as I can say, about here. Superintendent Battle placed himself in the same spot. That's right, he agreed. The empty shell would have thrown right to the rear. It's a 4.55. I don't wonder the Countess thought it was a bullet in the dark. It hit the bookcase about a foot from her. The bullet itself grazed the window frame, and we'll find it outside tomorrow, unless your assailant happens to be carrying it about in him. Jimmy shook his head regretfully. Leopold, I fear, did not cover himself with glory, he remarked sadly.
The Countess was looking at him with most flattering attention. "Your arm!" she exclaimed. "It is all tied up. Was it you, then?"
Jimmy made her a mock bow. I'm so glad I've got a cultured English voice, he said, and I can assure you that I wouldn't have dreamed of using the language I did if I had any suspicion that a lady was present.
"I did not understand all of it," the Countess hastened to explain, "although I had an English governess when I was young."
It isn't the sort of thing she'd be likely to teach you, agreed Jimmy. Kept you busy with your uncle's pen and the umbrella of the gardener's niece. I know that sort of stuff.
"But what has happened?" asked the Countess. "That is what I want to know. I demand to know what has happened."
There was a moment's silence whilst everyone looked at Superintendent Battle. It's very simple, said Battle mildly. Attempted robbery. Some political papers stolen from Sir Stanley Digby. The thieves nearly got away with them, but thanks to this young lady, he indicated Lorraine, they didn't.
The Countess flashed a glance at the girl, rather an odd glance. "Indeed," she said coldly.
A very fortunate coincidence that she happened to be there, said Superintendent Battle, smiling.
The Countess gave a little sigh and half closed her eyes again. "It is absurd, but I still feel extremely faint," she murmured.
Of course you do, cried Bill. Let me help you up to your room. Bundle will come with you.
"It is very kind of Lady Eileen," said the Countess, "but I should prefer to be alone. I am really quite all right. Perhaps you will just help me up the stairs?" She rose to her feet, accepted Bill's arm, and, leaning heavily on it, went out of the room. Bundle followed as far as the hall, but the Countess reiterating her assurance, with some tartness, that she was quite all right, she did not accompany them upstairs. But as she stood watching the Countess's graceful form, supported by Bill, slowly mounting the stairway, she stiffened suddenly to acute attention. The Countess's negligee, as previously mentioned, was thin, a mere veil of orange chiffon. Through it, Bundle saw distinctly below the right shoulder blade a small black mole. With a gasp, Bundle swung impetuously round to where Superintendent Battle was just emerging from the library. Jimmy and Lorraine had preceded him.
There, said Battle. I've fastened the window, and there will be a man on duty outside. And I'll lock this door and take the key. In the morning, we'll do what the French call reconstruct the crime. Yes, Lady Eileen? What is it?
"Superintendent Battle, I must speak to you at once."
Why, certainly George Lomax suddenly appeared, Dr. Cartwright by his side. Ah, there you are, Battle. You'll be relieved to hear that there's nothing seriously wrong with O'Rourke. I never thought there would be much wrong with Mr. O'Rourke, said Battle. He's had a strong hypnotic administered to him, said the doctor. He'll wake perfectly all right in the morning, perhaps a bit of a headache, perhaps not, but then, young man, let's look at that bullet wound of yours. Come on, nurse, said Jimmy to Lorraine. Come and hold the basin or my hand. Witness a strong man's agony. You know the stunt." Jimmy, Lorraine, and the doctor went off together. Bundle continued to throw agonized glances in the direction of Superintendent Battle, who had been buttonholed by George. The superintendent waited patiently till a pause occurred in George's loquacity. He then swiftly took advantage of it. "I wonder, sir, if I might have a word privately with Sir Stanley, in the little study at the end there." "Certainly," said George. "Certainly, I'll go and fetch him at once." He hurried off upstairs. Battle drew Bundle swiftly into the drawing room and shut the door. "Now, Lady Eileen, what is it?"
I'll tell you as quickly as I can, but it's rather long and complicated. As concisely as she could, Bundle related her introduction to the Seven Dials Club and her subsequent adventures there. When she had finished, Superintendent Battle drew a long breath. For once, his facial woodenness was laid aside.
"Remarkable," he said. "Remarkable. I wouldn't have believed it possible, even for you, Lady Eileen. I ought to have known better."
But you did give me a hint, Superintendent Battle. You told me to ask Bill Eversley.
"It's dangerous to give people like you a hint, Lady Eileen. I never dreamt of you going to the lengths you have."
Well, it's all right, Superintendent Battle. My death doesn't lie at your door.
"Not yet, it doesn't," said Battle grimly. He stood as though in thought, turning things over in his mind. "What Mr. Thesiger was about, letting you run into danger like that, I can't think," he said presently.
He didn't know till afterwards, said Bundle. I'm not a complete mug, Superintendent Battle. And anyway, he's got his hands full looking after Miss Wade.
"Is that so?" said the superintendent. "Ah." He twinkled a little. "I shall have to detail Mr. Eversley to look after you, Lady Eileen."
Bill, said Bundle contemptuously. But Superintendent Battle, you haven't heard the end of my story. The woman I saw there, Anna, number 1, yes, number 1 is the Countess Radzky. And rapidly she went on to describe her recognition of the mole.
To her surprise, the superintendent hemmed and hawed. "A mole isn't much to go upon, Lady Eileen. 2 women might have an identical mole very easily. You must remember that the Countess Radzky is a very well-known figure in Hungary."
Then this isn't the real Countess Radzky. I tell you, I'm sure this is the same woman I saw there. And look at her tonight, the way we found her. I don't believe she ever fainted at all.
"Oh, I shouldn't say that, Lady Eileen. That empty shell striking the bookcase beside her might have frightened any woman half out of her wits."
But what was she doing there anyway? One doesn't come down to look for a book with an electric torch.
Battle scratched his cheek. He seemed unwillingly to speak. He began to pace up and down the room, as though making up his mind. At last he turned to the girl. "See here, Lady Eileen, I'm going to trust you. The Countess's conduct is suspicious. I know that as well as you do. It's very suspicious, but we've got to go on carefully. There mustn't be any unpleasantness with the embassies. One has got to be sure."
I see. If you are sure.
"There's something else. During the war, Lady Eileen, there was a great outcry about German spies being left at large. Busybodies wrote letters to the papers about it. We paid no attention. Hard words didn't hurt us. The small fries were left alone. Why? Because through them, sooner or later, we got the big fellow, the man at the top."
You mean?
"Don't bother about what I mean, Lady Eileen. But remember this. I know all about the Countess, and I want her left alone. And now, said Superintendent Battle ruefully, I've got to think of something to say to Sir Stanley Digby. Well, the game is officially afoot, and the stakes for Bundle and the gang has never been higher. But does the evidence actually add up? What are some of the finer points that drew your attention during this action-packed sequence, Anna?
Well, the first thing that drew my eye was that it was weird that Lorraine showed up to the house in the dead of the night. I can understand her wanting to know what's going on. She wasn't invited to the party. She was told to stay home. So perhaps she was feeling a bit left out. But to be there right in the middle of the action and where most people didn't know her because she didn't attend the party, I find that a little fishy.
And you know what else is fishy? It seems like not a lot of people were actually in bed that night to me. Because it's also odd that Sir Oswald Coote shows up on the terrace after finding a pistol on the ground outside. It's as if he never went to bed. Then Superintendent Battle mentioned that he had other officers on the ground, which means that Superintendent Battle might have suspected something else was going to go on that night. Obviously, this was a high-stakes event that he was trying to prevent anything from happening. But, it just seems to me there was, not a lot of people asleep that night.
Yeah, really. Everybody got there real quick, and people are frantically searching. I mean, Lady Coote said that she was frantic because she thought that he was murdered by the thieves. But that also brings the question, where was he if he was asleep next to her in bed? Wouldn't she be assured of his well-being? Just strange things.
Yeah, you'd think so. Something else that I thought of, Lorraine. Okay, so she drove over there. She got muddy coming in. Lorraine bought a pistol at Harrods. Can you imagine that? Harrods was like the fanciest of the fancy stores. Just imagine buying a pistol at Saks Fifth Avenue right now. Very high end.
Yeah, that's crazy. Even when, you would be able to buy that 100 years ago, now you couldn't even think of it.
Yeah,
But,
no kidding.
yeah, after all that hubbub has died down, Battle inspected the room, and he spies this leather divider in the side. And lo and behold, the Countess Radzky is behind it, passed out. She says that she was there to take a book from the library because she couldn't sleep. And she does have her nightgown on, so we can't fully say that's not what she was doing, but she has a full face of makeup on. And, in the previous chapter, Bundle accidentally went into her room and the bed was never slept in. So I find that odd as well.
Yeah, it was clear that she was up to something, and it's also obvious that she didn't go to bed. So, um, and another thing, when she walked out, you know what Bundle saw? Bundle saw that mole on her back, which she also saw on member number 1 of the secret meeting.
Yeah,
So
that's
that cannot be a coincidence, and I firmly at this point think that Countess Radzky is number 1.
yeah, me too. Thanks for dropping by the Dragon's Den. Please join us next time when we bend a page and explore chapters 23 and 24 of The Seven Dials Mystery by Agatha Christie.